afternoon, everybody. This is Fago Franklin III with New Stitch Media. Today, I have former track and field athlete as well as author Steven Benedict. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm good. And just to make a quick correction, I'm still a track and field athlete.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My apologies on that.
No.
Yes, sir. But before we go into your journey, because you have a beautiful, inspiring message as well as journey, I would like you to give my viewers some words of encouragement for today.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing, especially in this day and age and where we are at as a society and community, I think it's very, very important to be present in every moment, and to be grateful for everything we have, and to know that each and every day we have the opportunity from a clean and new slate. And we are not living in the past. We're not living in yesterday, but you have the opportunity to open up new doors for today.
Oh, man, thank you for those encouraging words. So I know you had a very strange and rough childhood. Tell my viewers a little bit about your story and who you are.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so in short, a little bit about my background. My upbringing was it's been a roller coaster of a ride all across the board for me. I was put into foster care at 4 months due to an unstable situation, neglect and abuse and abandonment by my mother, but then put back into her hands not too long after that, where my brother was born, and we're 2.5 years apart. We were living in and out of motel rooms, very unstable situations, not being taken care of or protected. We were severely abused by her boyfriend. And then we were put back into foster care for another 6 years, bounced around up and down the East Coast, not knowing what day-to-day life looked like. And the only thing that was important to us at that time was to have a roof over our head, a warm bed to sleep in, and a hot meal to eat at night. Those were pretty much the essentials, and I think they're essentials for everybody, and they're overlooked greatly. But that was kind of like the early stages of things. We finally landed into a foster home that we were there for a good portion of the latter half of our foster care experience. And then we were adopted at the ages of 8 and 6 by two great individuals. My mother was a school teacher, second grade teacher, very powerful woman, very influential woman, impacted children's lives, not only here in the States, but also internationally in Japan, taught English, had her hands in everything in what we were, and just gave us that second chance at life, really opened up the doors to communication for us for education and sports and art and music and sports, and then my father was ex-Vietnam vet, worked, he was a special forces in Marines, and then he went on to work for Merrill Lynch. So we had two very, very different dynamics there. My father was pretty much the joy of life, always smiling, always, cheerful, always had a loving heart on him. And my mother was a very kind of go get it, run the family with the iron fist type of mentality. So those two dynamics really gave us a really well-rounded aspect of things, and helped us to grow, and accelerating our childhood into something that we wouldn't have had beforehand. So fast forwarding years, through high school, I played a plethora of sports, and track and field kind of really stuck with me, and I really excelled in that, as well as football. But fast forwarding those years into our mid-20s, my mother was diagnosed with bone marrow cancer, and we watched and if you know anything about cancers, bone marrow cancer, brain cancer, and pancreatic cancer are three of the most lethal and probably the most least coming back from as any of the cancers. So we watched a very powerful woman deteriorate within 1 year from the bold woman we knew she was to deteriorating to nothing and losing her battle within a year, going through 8 reconstructive surgeries within that year, and just and still maintain a position of positivity and maintain a position of just the bold person we knew her as, in pretty much giving us her last words 3 days before she passed were, everything is going to be okay. And this is a dying woman telling her 2 boys this, and her 2 boys, who are athletes and strong and powerful and, you know, all these things that were groomed into us, not being able to do anything was a very tough thing to watch. Not too long after that, 3 years after that, my father, you know, long story short, but he was visiting his brother down in a retirement home, and they drive golf carts down there. They took a wrong turn coming home one night, and he got thrown from a golf cart and hit his head in all the right positions, and putting him into an irreversible coma. After a week of diagnosis, I had to, me being the oldest, had to make the executive decision to take him off life support. So a lot of dark periods after that, trying to find out who I was, trying to rebalance who I was, living 2 different lives, from living an elite athlete life to living this totally different person of being in the wrong crowds, doing the wrong things, being around the wrong people, in the wrong communities, and, you know, having alcohol involved, you know, dabbling in drugs, and it just totally 2 opposite ends, and trying to balance both of them out. And one of them had to die, or otherwise pretty much I was going to die. Now, and that brings us to kind of current day of things, you know, kind of short stepping a few things in there. But, you know, the overall aspect for me is that, you know, it's been a very faith journey with not having a lot of faith, you know, early age, or having to know that whole aspect of who I was, and or that God aspect of stepping in until he really stepped in for me and really have brought me to the light, and has given me purpose and provision and parameters to stay in. And now my life purpose and my life calling is to just really be a good man first and foremost, be a good human, to honor my parents, but also to, you know, really do God's will, and to be somebody that's going to leave a legacy that is going to be impactful for not only our youth, but also what it means to be a good leader, and what it means to be a good man.
After you've been through all those hardships, what does it mean to you that you can inspire everybody with your story, you know, help out the youth as well as the community?
You know, that's a really big piece of who I become. So it's very important to me. It's very important to not only my work, that's the calling on my name, and the calling on the person I am, and the person I want to become and evolving into. But it's a daily fight, right? So I think every day, the moment I put my feet on the ground and step out of bed, that I'm getting ready to go to battle, and that I have something to do, and I have a purpose to do, and to keep my eyes set upon that, and that, you know, there's going to be flashy things along the way, but the flashy things don't last. It's, you know, it's the endurance and being steadfast in the position in which you were given, and being a good steward of those gifts, I think is the most important to me to do. As long as I know that I'm being a good student of everything that I'm given, then I'm able to, that I know that I'm giving to the right people, and I'm making to the right impact, and the rest God will take care of.
Amen. I know you just mentioned about your faith. How has your faith molded you into the individual that you are today, despite all the obstacles that you had to overcome?
Yeah, it's everything. It's everything for me. You know, at this point in my life, it's everything for me. It's I don't mess around with that. You know, that's a part of me that has really become the cornerstone of who I am and what I stand for. And I believe that if we don't have that intact, then you know we're not going to be. That has to be the foundation, you know, because everything. And I think God is very good at that, and I think He's he puts it in place when we need it the most. And I didn't have it for the longest time. I didn't know. I mean, I grew up like in the Catholic Church and things like that, but that was just formalities for me. Like I didn't know about God really. I didn't know about relationship. I didn't know about what that meant and things like that. Only up until 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, you know, I feel like He really stepped in for me and really start shaping me and really start pulling me close and helping me to understand that the story that He's placed upon my life is not only is a gift and it's not a crutch, and that I'll always be provided for as long as I know that where my provision is coming from.
What advice or tips can you give other individuals that have been in your shoes and just trying to find a positive outlet?
Yeah, man, you know, that's a good question. And I think it's really important to have quality people around you. I think it's important to have community around you. And I'm not just any type of community. I mean, community that can speak life into you, that understands your story, that is empathetic towards it, and that you can be empathetic towards their stories as well. I think it's a two-way street. And I think that where a lot of things get lost nowadays is that there's so much disconnect where we are right now as a society, and we lose sight of that everybody has a story. No one's story is more important than another's. And it's when we're able to step into somebody else's story, that's when connection and actual impact is made on a greater scale. If we think we can go at things alone, we're very much mistaken.
And your perspective, what does love mean to you, as well as the connections that unify people together?
I think love is the foundation of everything. You know, where there's two types of love, right? And I just actually posted about this. There's two types of love. There's conditional and unconditional love. Now, conditional love is very fleeting and is unsustainable. And, you know, it's loving in the moments in which things are going great for us and relationships are all at the top of their peaks and there's no problems to be seen in sight. It's easy to love then, right? It's easy to love in those incidents. But unconditional love is when we're in the muck of things, we're in the storm of things, and yet we can still be steadfast with the people in which that are closest to us, in which the relationships are most important to us, those intimate relationships that we're staying connected with them and we're walking through it together, and that we're not judging by what that person is going through or what their shortcomings are. And we love them anyway for those shortcomings, and we love them because of those shortcomings, because it makes them unique and it makes us unique, and it brings out the greatest parts in us, right? And I think, you know, obviously the biggest example of that is God is unconditional love, and you know, and He, you know, and you know, His Son Jesus is the epitome of love and what He's done for everybody.
So, what inspires you to write your book, Good Morning Superstar, where intentions set the tone, but habits align you to shine? What inspired that?
I think it's a cumulative of things, and just watching what's been out there, and I think I'm very much in the I love being in the cognitive space and the human performance space, and I think that they intertwine with spirituality. You can't have one without the other. And so what we focus on is where we go, right? And I think the first 20 minutes of our days, when we wake up in the morning, and the last 20 minutes at night are our most absorbent. We set the tone for that morning and that day and the pace of the race we're going to run for that day. And we also set the tone at night when we go to bed, heads down on the bed, on the pillow at night, that we've done the best that we could do with the best that we've had for that day, with what we had for that day. And so, that's been kind of like the story of my life. So, I really wanted to put something together that was simple and it was straightforward and it was impactful. So this book has kind of been put together in that sense. And there's quotes in there by some of the sharpest minds in the world, and parables that are written up after that are all my experiences through that, very short and very to the point. And then there's 2 questions, an empowering question and a take action question. And those are in there because I feel that when we ask ourselves better questions, or we ask questions in general, the better questions we ask, the better results we get.
Mm-hmm. And now me and you actually have something in common. We both ran track. So what inspired? Yes, I used to run in high school. I didn't make it to the collegiate. I was like, it's too much. I got to do schoolwork and different things of that nature. I kind of regret it a little bit, but God blessed me with being a sports journalist. So I'm right there with all the athletes and different things of that nature, but I digress. What inspired you to, get into track?
Actually, I was pushed into it. Not something I wanted to do. I was out on the football field. I was playing in my freshman year in high school, and the track coach saw me and approached my parents, and they said, "Hey, we'd love for him to come out winter season to run." And I was immediately against it. I really didn't want to run at all. I had no inkling to run. I was like, I don't even know what track is going to be like or anything. I was actually planning on wrestling that winter because I did judo for 10 years before that. So martial arts was my base in everything that I've done. And so my mother, being the pushy person she was, she said, just try it, try something new, whatever the case is, and whatever. So I did. I went out my freshman year and I wound up winning indoor county championships in the 300 meters, and kind of stuck with me after that. I was excelling at it very well. And, I had a good coach, I had a good team, and I was exposed to track at a broader arena than most high school kids would be. Being able to run in some of the biggest meets. I ran in Penn Relays, and which is a world international meet. So to see what the bigger picture of track and field looked like at a young age was very vital for my development in that sense. And that was another a development of athletics, and I've trained with some of the best in the world, some of the best coaches in the world, and I've had some of the worst coaches in the world. But it's definitely given me a broad picture of what the sport is and what it's done for me and how it's developed me, not only on the track, but off the track as well.
This is the weird year in 2020. How have you adjusted your life since we've been going through a pandemic, the protests and a lot of different issues around the globe?
Yeah, I think that with everything that is going on, it's definitely, if you don't have a good filter, you're in a tough spot right now. And I think that it's definitely developed filters for everybody. Some people have developed really good filters, and some people have developed not so good filters. And, for me, this area within these past 6-7 months of when it started, I have to say it's been very productive for me. And I've gotten a lot done with a lot of projects that I probably wouldn't have gotten done because I'd be training as much as I would have been, like 20 hours a week, which has pulled me back from a lot. But it's really helped me to develop a lot, helped me to see a lot of different things, and it's helped me to do a lot of self-development too. Work on a lot of issues that I've had to really confront, to be a better communicator, a better leader, a better man. And so those things can translate to my relationships, personal relationships, intimate relationships, and just overall business relationships. So it's been a trying time for everyone. Let's not take that off the plate at all. All the issues just compiling one after another. And there's been very little breathing room. So, but I think the home and your space in which you come home to has been very vital to develop. And I've been honing in on that a lot, just making sure that my environment has been conducive for me to produce, and not coming home to something where it's been a hideaway from everything. I'm aware of what's going on, but whether I allow it to affect me to a certain point is my own decisions.
What advice could you give people that are looking to adopt children? Like, what is the entire process with that?
Yeah, it's not an easy process. It's not a cheap process either. And the system is so backed up right now, and it's not very streamlined at all. So before people decide to get into the process or decide to even jump into being a foster parent or going into adoption, I think you really need to educate yourself, ask questions, and then get around the people who have been through the process already. Then after you do all of those things, make a decision, and make an educated decision, whether it's feasible for you, whether it's something that you're wanting to do, and it's not something that is just like, hey, let's adopt because it seems like the popular thing to do, because you have somebody else's life in jeopardy now, right? And you're playing with somebody else's livelihood, a child that needs to have a home and a roof over their head, and needs to be accepted, and needs to have that love foundation, and needs to have trust built. All of these other factors and all these other layers go into it. So definitely I would get around foster parents and foster families first, see what the situations look like, have conversations with them, ask them what their experience is like, and then maybe foster a child for a bit, maybe foster for a little while and develop that, because fostering is a temporary aspect. You're not in it for the long haul, right? And that has to be known too, is that those connections that are built with those children, some foster parents do go on to adopt, but many don't. And going into that has to be known. And yes, you're going to have a connection with that child, but also you have to know that at some point that child is going to be handed over into transitioning into a family, an adopted family. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, and there's a lot of layers and a lot of layers that need to be peeled back before you just start jumping into kind of taking the reins of a child's life.
And my last question is, what advice could you give people about overcoming their fears and just taking a leap of faith?
Yeah. Well, I think you said it right there. I think it's a choice, right? It's a choice that we each have, and we're each given free will in that sense. You either have fear or faith, right? So you either let the outside circumstances dictate what's going on internally, or you internally dictate what happens outside. And that's all about faith. And faith is all, and the prerequisite to faith is hope and trust. So trusting in that you've been provided for, and you have everything that you need for today, because today is more than enough we need to deal with. Try not to worry about what has happened in the past. It's already done and it's already over with. So we can't live there anymore. And try not to be a fortune teller and predict the future. There's only one person that does that, and that's God. And he takes care of everything. He already has everything laid out for you. And that's where the trust comes in. And it's tough. It's something that, I know I've dealt with and I've fought with on several occasions, where, there's questions that I can't answer right now, but that I have to trust in the fact that I've made it this far with all the other things that have happened in my life, that, gosh, you know what? If he's brought me this far, then there's no reason why I shouldn't trust at this point. And I think that becomes the parameter. We need to look back at what we've overcome and where we are now, and look at the things we have around us. We have a roof overhead. Do we have food in the refrigerator? Do we have a bed to sleep in at night? Do we have hot water, cold water to turn on? These are all parameters and all, markers in which we use to kind of sit at the place of, hey, we're in a lot better position than a lot of other people are.
Amen to that. Thank you for joining me on my show. I definitely enjoy your beautiful, inspiring story. It actually inspired me because I have a very similar story to yours. Maybe one day me and you could just definitely chop it up, and you hear my side of the story as well.
I would love to, man. I would love to. I'm always an open ear. I would love to hear about it.
Yes, sir. Before I let you go, where can my fans and viewers actually find your book?
Sure. Yeah, it's sold everywhere you buy books. It's sold nationally. You can buy Barnes & Noble. It's on Amazon. Good Morning Superstar. You can look it up there. All the proceeds. I love the book myself. Obviously, I mean, I wrote it, but but even better, all the proceeds are going to impact foster families and aging out youth for a sustainable holiday. So please pick up a copy. You're not impacting me. You're impacting a very viable life that needs it. And you can find it anywhere. And if you love it, leave a review for it. All it does is just help the book out.
Amen to that. We will definitely talk soon, and good luck next year with the Olympics.
I appreciate it. Thank you much for your time.
Yes, sir. Amen. All right, now have a blessed one.
You too.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.